Good morning. It is Tuesday, and you know what that means. It's another edition of the Kitchings Table. Good morning. I'm your host, W. Earl Kitchings. Along with me is always the beautiful Ronleen Kennedy to help me get through another Tuesday morning of some information that we just love to share with you. Good morning, Ronleen.
Good morning, Earl. How are you this morning?
I'm inspired. How
Yes.
about that? How about that? I'm inspired. So today we're going to bring another great topic, in my opinion, to our viewers and listeners. And today our topic is called Stealing the Land.
Mm.
Stealing the land, not borrowing it, not renting it, not leasing it, just outright stealing it. And that could apply to a lot of different situations in a lot of different places. Uh, Maybe some of our listeners and viewers remember that we spoke about Black farmers and the plight they're dealing with their land being basically, the word eminent domain. Just for those who may not know what eminent domain means or how it affects you and your property. If the government is doing something that they feel is necessary and a necessity, if they're bringing in a road, if they're trying to do some other type of project, and your property is in between that project getting completed and the government wanting to make you an offer, then they will make you an offer. But once they reach the maximum amount of that offer, if you do not accept it, they will just take your property, call it eminent domain, move you away, and they will proceed with their project. Now, I know a lot of people may not have heard that before and may not realize that, but it is real. It is very real, and the government will make you that offer. It may not be what you want. And for some of these black farmers, it is definitely not what they want. And although the government is not initially involved in the process that we spoke about where they're building these two plants, and black farms are in between North Carolina and Tennessee to get the battery company that's making the batteries for electrical vehicles to the company where they're making the vehicles in Tennessee from North Carolina. They're trying to build a roadway and have a direct line. They say the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. So to make that line as straight as possible, it has to go through some properties that are owned by black farmers, and they are not offering them fair value for their property. So that is one of those cases where that land basically technically is being stolen because you're not giving folks the right value for what that money is worth. Although once they get it, they increase the value of that property. It takes on a whole different income level or value level. So today we're talking about stealing the land, and it's not in North Carolina and it's not in Tennessee. It's in part of North Carolina. Let me correct that. It's in part of North Carolina, the southern portion of North Carolina, but it goes from the southern portion of North Carolina on the coastline down through South Carolina, Georgia, to the northern coast of Florida. As a matter of fact, Ronleen, basically what the map says is to Jacksonville, Florida, and I guess that would be the area known as Amelia Island, and what we used to go to is still there, but it has shrunk a lot. American Beach, which is between Fernandina Beach and Amelia Island, and they basically just squeeze that property to the point where the black people who own property there, if they're not careful, when that value comes and they offer it, they're going to basically push those people out or off of their property. But we're talking about that land specifically today, and Sapelo Island in Georgia, which is on the coastal areas of Georgia, Brunswick, Jekyll Island, a little bit further up on that coast. And Sapelo Island is an island in McIntosh County. It is approximately 16,500 acres of land, and they are talking about wanting to get to that land, now understand that black people have had that land for over 230 years. Nobody tried to go over there and get that island. Nobody tried to, do anything with it. Black people, leave us where we are. We'll be okay. We'll make it work for us. But now, in the 21st century, when you squeeze that green paper with George or Abe or Benjamin, when
Grant.
you uh, Ulysses, uh, Andrew, and I'm waiting when they're going to turn that Andrew $20 bill into the Harriet $20 bill. I don't know if they're still going to go forward with that, but that was what they're supposed to be doing, was to put Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill. I think she definitely represents a lot better than Andrew Jackson, although he was a president. But that's another story for another day. But anytime you start squeezing those pictures on that green paper, folks want to get more green paper so that they can, put in their coffers and put in their bank accounts and whatever. So the residents of Sapelo Island are under attack by the state of Georgia, McIntosh County, and they're seeking to have the quote unquote, from what I read from the Associated Press, the protections that have helped for decades for these people from high taxes and pressure to sell their lands from developers. Well, the developers have put a microscope on that island, and they're like, well, let's get that island and build some homes there. So, and we're not talking about the size that these people live in, where they're talking about 1,100 square feet. Oh no, we're talking about 6,000 square foot homes. 6,000 square feet. So that would be basically about 5 of their homes in one. And one of the things that the island and the residents don't have, they don't have a fire department. They don't have some other amenities on that island. But I guarantee you, if the developers get it their way and they can start building. Now, they're only 16,500 acres, and most of it is marshland. So not all of it is there for development. But whatever they can develop, they want to get their hands on it. And this is what they're wanting to do right now. And specifically, the area called Hog Hammock is under attack from these changing of zoning regulations. As they say, the proposed amendments to the Hog Hammock zoning regulations are in the best interest of the residents of Hog Hammock and all of the citizens of McIntosh County. These regulations provide the best protection that any county in Georgia can provide to similarly situated communities. That quote came from Patrick Zooks, the county manager in McIntosh County of the Darien News. So he's saying it's the best thing for everybody. It just became the best thing for everybody.
Yeah.
20 years ago, they may have had some discussion on it, but not like what they're doing now. And when we talk about why all of a sudden there is this reason or need to build on this property, of course, those who are wealthy want to have access to the beach, and they want to get their hands on some of this property so they can build these large homes. And I've seen some of these homes that they would probably like to build in an area in South Carolina. When my son and I went to the U.S. Open a couple of years ago in South Carolina, I forget what area that was, but uh, just south of Myrtle Beach. But again, the homes that were on the land that was where the golf tournament was being played, and the golf course was probably 200 yards away from the ocean. And you look at these homes now; they don't have a lot of lawn space. They don't want a lot of lawn space. They may want 20 yards square at the most of yard. The rest of it is house, and most of them are going to be two-story homes, very beautiful homes, situated almost like somebody just crafted a way to just drop them right on these lots and amongst all this vegetation and trees and things like that, and just situate them. And everybody has a little bit of space between each other, and they're very beautiful, and the community is very nice. And school is there, and the fire department is there, and all kinds of things pop up once that development happens. But until that happens, it stays, as they say, very raw. So the people who live on Sapelo Island is very raw there, and the people who live on that island are known to be the Gullah Geechee people of the coastal areas of North Carolina, southern North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and northern Florida. And they've been there since the days of slavery. Their people have been on these islands since the days of slavery. However, now there is a reason to want to go to this place and make some changes to the zoning restrictions that will suit those who have money versus those who have owned it for over 2 centuries. So when you hear a gentleman who's the county manager talking about these regulations provide the best protection that any county in Georgia can provide to similar communities. What other similar communities is he talking about? Jekyll Island, is that where he's talking about? I know Jekyll Island is another one of those ocean communities that right there off the ocean. Uh, I know in Camden County, Kingsland, there might be a little bit of area for that along that coastline. So when you look at the coastline, if you get a map out, and Georgia has a very uh, distinct shape to it because it's kind of north and south, but then when it goes east to west, it goes uh, toward a southeastern angle. Then it kind of goes straight south, and that from that point where it breaks to go from east going south, there's probably about just north of Savannah to Camden. So let's just say right around 200 miles. And somewhere in there is Sapelo Island and Hog Hammock community where these Gullah Geechee people have lived for many, 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 many years, not bothering anybody, minding their own, not trying to take anything from anybody, just trying to live and survive. But now developers come in and tell county managers, we're going to do some things and develop some things. And they don't talk about, they won't let you know, they talk about that bag, Patrick, we're going to put a bag over here for you. And I don't know if people understand when we talk about a bag, what it means, but we're talking about that bag of money. If you can get this done, we're certainly going to put a bag over there for you. You have to recognize it's your bag. But you make these changes. These people have had this property, this land for many years. They are very into the aesthetic life there, the keeping of the communities like it is. It's very dependent on the ocean. These people depend on the ocean for food and life-sustaining things, work and things like that. So they've been there for many, many, many years, and they're trying to hold on now because developers, McIntosh County, people around the Darien area are wanting to come in. So I also put in my research, the changes will likely increase property taxes for the majority of Black homeowners who had, as part of their legal settlement, one concession from the county to to reverse past tax increases while not receiving basic services like a firefighting infrastructure, sanitation, and emergency medical facilities. So we're going to have a trade-off. You don't increase our taxes, we'll do without these necessary things. But now you want to change that, and now you want to come in and make this happen. And Hog Hammock is a community that is on the National Register of Historic Places, and it made that list in 1996. But it does not matter. It does not matter because, again, when you start pinching Ulysses and Benjamin and Andrew, when you start pinching them and saying, I can give you some more of them if you just help me with this, folks start wanting to change the rules of the game. We want to start stealing the land. That's why we titled this today, Stealing the Land, because you're not wanting to be fair and equitable about anything, because there would be no fair and equitableness about anything if these types of communities and these types of lands that Black people have owned since slavery days flip to developers who want to come in and build 6,000 square foot homes and live in these lands. And the problem is, if once this happens, once that property value goes up, and the people, Black people who have been living on this property for all these years, that land has been passed down from generation to generation. Once that property value goes up and they can't pay that property tax, they got to move.
Mhm.
You got to go.
Mhm.
But this has been my land for 200 years. My family been on this land for 200 years. Sir, the property tax now is X amount of dollars. Either you can come up with it or you got to go. Now, they disguise all of this by legalities and regulations and zoning and all this kind of stuff. But let's be honest, that's just stealing
Mhm.
land. Just stealing land, because if you don't already have enough as it is, you need more. You got to have some more. And instead of paying these people a fair price, but they don't want to leave. This is their home. This is not a thing that they want to do. They're not interested in moving. They're happy where they are. But again, as the land of the Native Americans were stolen centuries ago, and they were pushed onto reservations in this country that don't have all the basic necessities that they need in order for their communities to be as prosperous as they need to be. Again, we find developers, capitalistic opportunists wanting to steal land so they can make their life comfortable and make their communities prosperous and be able to ride to Sapelo Island and hog hammock, and live there in their nice fine homes and talk about how great life is, while displacing people who have had this property for over 230 years. The consciousness of some of the people in this country are just unbearable, especially when we're talking about money, because that's what this is all about: who's got it and who doesn't. So there are 11,000 residents of McIntosh County, 11,000 residents. And of that 11,000, 66% are white. But those people who live Sapelo Island or the Hog Hammock community are 100% Black. So when I went and looked at how big Hog Hammock community is, as I stated, Sapelo Island is 16,500 acres. Hog Hammock is 427 acres of land. And they said that the island is about the size of Manhattan, and this island was founded by people emancipated from former plantations. So I thought about something, Ronleen, when the old adage was put out when slavery days were over, and the promise, the false promise. You know the false promise, right, Ronleen?
The 40 acres and a mule.
The 40 acres and a mule.
Mhm.
We're going to give you 40 acres and a mule. Well, if you gave the people of Hog Hammock Island their 40 acres and a mule, that would be about 100 people basically living on that 400 acres. But if we're talking about the whole 16,500, if you gave that up based on the 40 acres, about 413 people would have property that equivalated to 40 acres. Now, for me, don't really need a mule. I need me a John Deere. I don't need a mule. Back then, a mule was all you had because you put the plow behind the mule and you're going to turn that land over. I don't need the mule nowadays. So just give me my 40 acres and I'll get the rest myself.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about Hog Hammock and the Gullah Geechee communities, and they say, about 45 people populate Hog Hammock Island. And again, all of the island is not livable, is not inhabitable because it's marshland.
Mm-hmm.
You can't live on all of those places where it's marshes. But uh, the ocean, and these people live off seafood. They live off rice. Rice grows real well in areas that are damp or have water. So they've made a life for themselves for all these years. But now you want to interrupt that because those 16,000 plus acres look so attractive on this island that's just sitting out there waiting. And then all of a sudden when you take that over, what does the man upstairs do? He sends a hurricane and tear it all down. You took all that land from these people who weren't bothering anybody. You built all these fine $6,000 homes, and then all of a sudden, one of those hurricanes comes and wipes it all out.
Mm-hmm.
Now you don't want to rebuild it, so you want to just live remnants of all this destruction and move back to the inland and leave it like you didn't find it.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't find it, destroy it like that. You didn't want those people to live there. They've been surviving through bad weather and everything else for all these years. You think about how many hurricanes have gone from some South Florida all the way up through North Carolina, and how much damage has been caused over the years. And these people have survived through all of that. But you can't survive zoning restrictions and rezoning designations. They can't survive that. That money is not, they don't have the money.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why we're talking about this situation today, because the community known as Gullah Geechee, and let's just talk about who these people are. Gullah people in their language are called Geechee, which may be derived from the name of the Ogeechee River near Savannah. And Gullah is a term that was originally used to designate the Creole dialect of English spoken by Gullah and Geechee people. It's estimated that 1 million people inhabit the Sea Islands and coastal areas stretching from Jacksonville, North Carolina, to Jacksonville, Florida. Jacksonville, North Carolina to Jacksonville, Florida. About 1 million Gullah Geechee people live in that space. And in South Carolina, they call it the Low Country, coastal areas, Sea Islands. But these people, this is where they've lived. And you want to come in, whether it be Georgia, South Carolina, South North Carolina, North Florida, you want to come in and just displace these people because you think it'll be a great place to build fine homes for you to have opportunities to vacation or to live. Uh, you don't want to compensate them properly. So when we say stealing the land, that's basically what happens. I mean, trinkets, some trinkets and blankets and beads. That's what they got the Indians. The Native Americans with. That's what they got them. up there in Manhattan in New York with some trinkets. You always got these trinkets you want to dangle in front of people. You couldn't dangle the trinkets in front of the Seminoles, or the Seminoles got real smart and said, no, you're gonna dangle some trinkets and pay us some real money uh, for us to let you use some of this land to continue to use our name, to keep the name Seminoles on that nickname of that university that's in the state capital. So the Seminoles, pretty business minded people if you really look at it. I mean, they've done their job in making sure that you don't know how many Seminoles live in the state of Florida because they're in their own community, secluded. It may not look like your communities, but they're secluded to the point where they are really off the radar, and they want to keep it that way.
Mhm.
So, uh, unfortunately, the people who are in these Sea Island corridors that extend from North Carolina to Florida, Gullah Geechees, they only want a fair shake. And that's what we're talking about, Eileen. That's going to do it for me on my little soapbox on that subject for right now.
Listen, what you're talking about, I mean, that's a wake up call because that's what, like, 5 states um,
Yes.
that stretches across for that area, that region. So when you're thinking about that, made me think about this election that we just had, where our governor put his name with the person that was running for property appraiser office here in Duval County.
Uh huh.
And when I saw the two their pictures together, I was looking at it. I said, "Well, wait a minute," because we know that he was planning on running for the United States for the presidency, for the candidacy for that. And so it's like, okay, governor. So you're now endorsing the property appraiser, who you want to become a property appraiser. And then I got to thinking about the land just on the north side of Jacksonville, Florida, with the Trout River, all of those areas there. And it's just been a big push to push these people out of their homes that's all around there, because many of that population, of owners, are African Americans. So anything that's pertaining to the waterlands and things like that, the livable or habitable
Habitable. Mm-hmm.
um, homes or whatever, so those are the first to be targeted. So those homes, if anybody get a hold to them like they wanted to, those homes will be torn down, and as you said, rezoned to wherein the homes will start being larger. Instead of the um, 1,100 square footage that's given for a home now. So I'm thinking about, and when you're talking about the 6,000 square feet home, I'm like, my goodness, you can do a whole lot with those homes. You can add a whole lot, as well. Put some in-law suites there if you want to do that. So we have to be mindful of where we are in this process, of home ownership. And we have to be mindful of always, I was listening to a couple of my clients of how they say they don't want to leave a fortune behind for their children. Well, you need to be leaving something behind that's worthwhile, because after a while, your children are going to be phased out of home ownership, through.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why we're saying we're talking about the tax and nothing but the tax.
Yeah.
We have to be mindful of the things that gives us a place or takes it away. So taxes is like the fine print. If you don't read it well and you go to signing your name to it, that could be the very thing that cause you to be on the street, if you will, or evicted, if you will. So anyway, our time has come to that end. I'll let you do let the people know who they're listening to today.
Well, thank you, Ronline, for your comments. This is the Kitchings Table. You can catch us every Tuesday morning on your online social media platforms at 10 o'clock on Tuesday mornings. We apologize for being a little tardy today because we had some technical issues, but we want you to know that Tuesday mornings, 10 o'clock, we are here to bring you information, news, whatever we feel that will enlighten you, entertain you, encourage you, inspire you, make you knowledgeable of things going on based on so many different topics in the country and around the world. But this is what we are doing here at the Kitchings Table, just like you sit at your Kitchings Table at your homes and hash out discussions and talk about bills and how you're going to do things. Well, this is a version of that. You know, we're not going to be talking about bills here, but we're going to be talking about things that may be relative to life in general. So today we're talking about on the topic of stealing the land and how in McIntosh County, Georgia, they are wanting to take over some of the sea islands for the purpose of converting them into uh, land owned by Gullah Geechee Black Americans who have had property since the days of slavery and turn them into exclusive beach communities where 6,000 square foot homes are the norm compared to the 1,100 square foot homes that a lot of Black people who have lived in these communities for over 200 years have lived in. And Ronline, I'm looking at one other thing here as a historical note or a fact, not an alternative fact, but a real fact. The corridor specifically focused on these these islands from North Carolina to Florida. It states that there are 79 Atlantic Barrier Islands.
Mm,
79 Atlantic Barrier Islands. And almost all of these are inhabited or are designated for African American inhabitants, adjoining areas within 30 miles of the coastline. So that corridor where these people live, very important, high value property now as folks look at it. Uh, but the important thing that the people who live there, they're more environmentally inclined for keeping that land and protecting it because they want to protect the salt marsh that many of these islands make up. And there's an initiative called the South Atlantic Salt Marsh Initiative where they are working to enhance the long term abundance, health, and resilience of approximately 1 million acres of salt marshes within the South Atlantic states to ensure no overall loss of the benefits these wetlands provide to fish, wildlife, and people. That's an initiative.
mm,
And that initiative is trying to preserve. We tend not to want to preserve things so much because we want to purchase. We rather purchase than preserve. We rather destroy than enhance. We rather displace than improve. And the mindset of the people who have these things in their heads where they must have more, the greed that comes along with developers who want more, is unbelievable. When you were talking about the taxes and building wealth, I recently saw an old video clip of Irvin Magic Johnson talking about when he left college after his uh, sophomore year to go to the NBA. That when the shoe companies, the athletic shoe companies, approached him about a deal, the one company he balked at was Nike.
mhm,
And the reason he balked at Nike because at the time he said Phil Knight, who was the owner of Nike, he said Nike uh, around 80, 81, they had just really, gotten into the shoe business. So he said, I can't offer you the money that Converse or Adidas is offering you, but I can offer you stock in Nike. And Magic admitted he didn't really, Magic, when he came to the pros, he was about 20 years old. So a 20-year-old guy, stock means nothing. Cash means a lot. So he went on to say that he balked at that and went for the cash. And now, all these years later, that stock would have been worth, in his estimation, $5 billion.
Mm.
$5 billion. So, and he kind of just put his head in his hand like, man, if I had known then, yeah. But when we talk about generational wealth, when we aren't a part of the conversations or aren't a part of the things that from economics, from income, from wealth, when we aren't involved in those endeavors, we don't know how to deal with them when opportunities come. And the thing about what's going on with these people in the Gullah Geechee areas, the property that they own, the value of them is going up, but it can be taken from them simply because they don't sit on any zoning boards. They don't sit on any city councils. Their voice, they don't have a voice. And even if they had a voice, it's not enough voices in order to turn back the desire of greed and development. So when we talk about purchasing property, land, when we talk about purchasing a home, and I would just say this as far as getting a home, if you can purchase a home on a 15-year note, do it. The 30-year note, although it is a way to get a home, if you bought $100,000 home on a 30-year note, you would have bought three homes in 30 years based on how much you've paid. So if you can get it on a short amount of time, get in, get out, and own that home after 15 years, you have some power, because now banks are making loans on equity in your home, land, especially if you own the land and the home. You have a lot of equity built up, and you can take some of the value of that and invest or do some other things that can give you some positive economic rewards. So, but these people, with this being pushed on them as it uh, is very concerning as the issues concerning black farmers. So I wanted to just bring this issue today because when I saw it, saw an article in the newspaper about what was going on, and being somewhat aware of who these people are, not knowing their full history, but now understanding better what's going on. 79 Atlantic Barrier Islands. That's a lot of islands from North Carolina. I'm talking about the southern portion of North Carolina because I worked on a barrier island in North Carolina just after high school in my first year of college, which is called Cape Hatteras Island. And Cape Hatteras Island is an island that is known as the graveyard of the Atlantic because many ships crashed on that island because you could not see it back in those days, especially if they were sailing at night or if weather got bad. But when these islands are inhabited by people who don't have much, you force them to scurry and inhabit places that most people wouldn't. And now that they've done all of this, you want to come take it from them. It doesn't quite sit well. So this is what we're talking about today when we said stealing the land. When folks want to come and just take it from folks without being fair about it, that's a steal.
Mm.
Marlene?
You're right about that. You're right about it because as I was listening to you and just really just thinking about the things that I know, the people that are maintaining these marshlands areas and things like that, I think about their educational level.
Mm-hmm.
and their educational level is just enough to, as you say, maintain the land. But as far as anything else, is, you know, getting the real money, if you
Right.
will, they don't have that.
Right.
However, this is a push for why we need to be advocating for education,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
especially in financial literacy, so that people will understand. And like you said about stocks and bonds, learning about investment tools and things like that. So they can be aware of what they can do with those small pieces of things that they have. I know for people that live on the islands, they have to, in order to get to the mainland, they have to take a boat over, or, that kind of thing, or a canoe. In some cases,
Not a canoe, please. Not a canoe.
yes, yes,
Not a
yes,
canoe.
yes. Uh, yes. So, to just get to the main parts of the land or whatever, and sometimes you never see them, or a raft. I've seen a raft being used,
Okay.
to these to the mainland and things like that. So, it wasn't until you brought this thing out. I thought about some families that live along the Hexa Drive shores.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So again, the land that they have is rich. They have, as you say, they can shop. I mean, well, I say shop from their pier, but they can fish from their pier, sell whatever it is, their goods, things like that, provide services, things along those lines or whatever. But they never really charge enough in order to make things work, to make things profitable for them. So that's the kind of thing that needs to, the educational piece needs to be done with that. Some people, what do you call that? Basket weaving.
Yep.
hmm things, those kind of things that you see in the shops or whatever, really are done from those people that, along those shores or whatever. You might see them set up little shops, or, things like that. Just a way of making a living, just to keep getting by, if you will, but
Mm-hmm.
very skillful.
Well, those people have crafts that they do. They've been doing for a long time, and the price to sell that product, uh, it caps off. It's only they're only going to pay or get paid so much for it. So, uh, like I said, it's unfortunate that you have developers who want to come in and just see an area that's, in their opinion, underserved and want to come in there and do something with it. Unfortunately, these people don't have the voice at the tables to turn such development back. So we'll keep our eye on what's going on with Sapelo Island and Hog Hammock and the rest of the island barriers that extend from North Carolina to Florida for the people of the Gullah Geechee culture. And hopefully they will have their day where McIntosh County in Georgia, at least, does not take their land, steal their land from them, and turn it over to the county or these developers who see such a real large opportunity simply because they want to increase their coffers so that they can have more and do more, and those who have less can get less and do less. So we'll keep our eye on this situation. So that's going to do it for our topic for today. We're going to start something new here at the Kitchings Table. And every Tuesday morning at about this time, we're going to turn this portion of our time into a Black historical moment. And starting today, Ron Lean is going to bring us that historical moment about a Black person or persons or an event or whatever it may be, she has come up with to talk about. So this will be the Kitchings Table Moment in Black History. Ronleen, on you.
Thank you so much, Earl. And we've been adding it in over time, but today, is that official day to just really put it there. So today's segment, we're going to be talking about Carter G. Woodson. His birth name is Carter Goodwin Woodson, and he was born in 1875. He died in 1950. He was an American historian. He was an author, journalist, and the founder of the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, also known as ASALA. The reason why I wanted to bring that to you all today is because ASALA is going to have a conference here in Jacksonville, Florida, starting this week. Well, next week. People are getting prepared for it. And you can go out there on asala.com to look to see if you would like to attend that conference. The reason why they're having it here in Florida, Jacksonville specifically, is because of all of the things that is happening about our attack for our African American history. Now, with all of the talk that's going on, we've been pushing for you to have a library in your home so that, your children, grandchildren, your generations to come can be able to benefit off of that history. What I liked about Carter G. Woodson is that he not only was the founder for Asala, but also he studied the African diaspora and including the African American history. And he was the founder of the Journal of Negro History in 1916. And he has been called the father of Black history. And because of him, we have started that Black History Week, which now has been extended to Black History Month, which sooner or later, Black history will be recognized year round. And that's what we're hoping for because it was so many things that went forward to our history. So I liked with Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton. They try to instill into the younger generations during their, since they have been up and coming, and a lot of us have been able to experience them talking and being able to be in the same room with them. But they want you to know that you are somebody. Do not allow anything to be taken from you. um, your people fought hard for you to be where you are, and it is up to you to pass that baton through your generations. And I love the different organizations that has gone forward, such as the NAACP, um, and all of the other things, movements that has been taking place. And now in the 21st century, we have experienced our first Black president, um, and our first vice president, in our lifetime. And we just hope that with the many congressmen that are coming, and congresswomen that have come through, we think about our Shirley Chisholms, we think about the many people that have fought that good fight. And as John Lewis would say, I'm sorry that he is deceased because we just did not get enough of him of being able to tell us what we need to do. We need to find some good trouble to get into, and that means start stirring up the pot. That means, you can't sit on the sidelines. Your vote has to count. And the only way that your vote is going to count is you got to come in for your ballot. You got to got to cast the ballot. You gotta vote. You have to do so. So I just wanted to um, give you a little bit of that perspective of Carter G. Woodson, and this wraps it up for the kitchen's table.
Well, Ronley, thank you so very much for your historical moment. We're so happy to have that new addition to the show, and we look forward to you bringing us some very interesting information about individuals and or events or things along those lines. That's going to do it for us today here at the Kitchings Table. We hope you enjoyed our topic today, Stealing Land, about the people of the Gullah Geechee communities throughout the southeastern region of the United States. Until next time, I'm Earl Kitchings saying so long until next time. For Ronleen Kennedy, we thank you for being with us. And as we say each and every week, do something good for somebody else. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.